together here in a minute. I think everybody's still muted. So.
Hi, everybody. A couple months ago, and it was a very good presentation. And I just realized that we at Bucksmont are committed to trying to reduce suffering in people's lives. And when somebody has been scammed out of a lot of money, they are suffering. So one of the things I've learned in studying this is one of the best way to protect yourselves from this kind of pain is to educate yourself about it ahead of time. I think in the announcements we talked about pre-bunking. Debunking is obviously correcting wrong information. Pre-bunking is becoming aware of that wrong information before it comes out so you're prepared. They have done studies and it really does work. So Danielle is out here to talk to us about the 10 most common scams. Not only will this help you protect yourselves, but also if a friend of yours gets scammed, she will talk about ways to respond to that because a lot of these people are ashamed, they're suffering, they've lost a lot of money, and she will give you some insight in that aspect too. So without further ado, here's Danielle Moore, right?
Yes.
From the PA Attorney General's office. She's going to talk about the 10 most common scams. We will have questions afterwards if you want, and we can come up to the...
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I will. So, hi. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I really appreciate being able to come out and talk to people about preventing scams and spotting them and reporting them. I like to preface this presentation with 2 points. The first one is that when it comes to scams, while I'm going to talk about sort of different buckets of scams, whether it's a romance scam, an investment scam, these scams really, in the grand scheme of them, fall into 2 different larger categories. So one that is working on towards fear, whether that's your account was hacked, family members in trouble, or it's excitement based. So you won a free cruise. Maybe there's a new love interest who unfortunately is actually part of organized crime overseas. So that really draws into the thought of stigma around being scammed. Every time I go and talk to people, I hear stories about folks either who are in the room or friends, family, neighbors, loved ones of the folks that I'm speaking to that have been scammed out of $500, $50,000, their identity was stolen, things like that. And it comes with a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of fear, and not wanting to tell family members or loved ones. I also talk to people and they often say to me what I responded to when I found out my loved one, was on the phone with a scammer and was scared and was told to go get an Amazon gift card, a Visa gift card, which we'll talk about that later. Folks asking for gift cards instead of more traceable money is a huge sign of a scam. But the response I hear so frequently is, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you trust that I would want to help you? And it's because there's a stigma around it. But this presentation is called Top 10 Scams Against Seniors. I don't even see it as senior based anymore. I was at a middle school on Friday, and I was talking to 5th and 6th graders about cyberbullying and being safe on the internet. And one of the most common types of questions they asked me was, what do I do if a scammer calls me on my phone? These kids were 11. So they target everybody. It's not a you thing. It's not, you're dumb. It's not you're naive. It's they come for vulnerability, and that makes it harder to spot and avoid these things in the moment, which is why prevention is so important in, the scam space. And it's easier to spot it than it is to deal with the ramifications, which I will talk about that at the end as well. Now that I've prefaced everything, I'll go through some of the most common types of scams, starting from number 10 to number 1. I did not make this PowerPoint, so I'm not 100% sure that this is a statistically ordered thing, but I would say in general they do become a bit more common as I get towards 3, 2, 1. So number 10 is the tech repair scam. Back in 2021, we update this presentation every year. This was the Zoom scam, or now that not that Zoom is, non-existent in our world today. Obviously, we have some folks joining us via Zoom, but now that we're not constantly on Zoom, the technology-based scams are more about maybe someone saying your internet connection isn't working, or there's a virus on your computer and you need to call this number to to get it fixed. This one usually comes through email. Obviously because we're on our laptop, I check my email multiple times a day. And this one, in terms of those two categories, this is obviously a very fear-based scam of, let's say it's getting closer to the holidays especially, and they say, oh, you're locked out of your Zoom account and you have to pay money to get back in. And you're saying, oh my gosh, I want to be able to connect with my extended family. And the easiest way to spot these, especially if they're in email, and this goes for any email scam, is when we're looking at an email, we obviously have that sort of header that says to and from. Click from, and usually a scam email, if it's not already filtered into your spam folder, will have a sort of very strange email address. So if there's issues with Zoom, it might be support@zoom.com. But the scam email is going to be a bunch of random letters and numbers that don't really make any sense. And the easiest way to, prevent something, if let's say someone calls and says, oh, there's something wrong with your computer or your Wi-Fi connection, is, who is your internet provider? Mine is Verizon. So if that happened to me, I would go on Google, or, maybe I have it on hand, Verizon customer service, and give Verizon a call and say, hey, is there an issue with my Wi-Fi connection? I just got a phone call. What we like to really emphasize at the Attorney General's office is it's better to have that moment of, oh, geez, okay, I should have known it was a scam, rather than to actually be scammed. So better a moment of embarrassment than a lot of, ramifications and financial issues with the scam itself. Moving on to number 9. This is a sweetheart swindle. So most scams are very short term. They're very in and out. So you're locked out of your Amazon account, your Zoom isn't working, that sort of thing, where they want to get your information, they want you to click the link. The sweetheart swindle is very different in that they play the long game. So the unfortunate truth about romance scams is that it's actually not even one specific person. These scams are the overwhelming majority of them come from organized crime in Nigeria. So a few years ago, actually, 8 Nigerian men were arrested and federally prosecuted in Texas for swindling people out of, I believe it was at least $250,000 through fake dating accounts, which, again, I say this to the kids that I talk to at school about internet safety. There is nothing wrong with connecting with people on the internet. But we want to have the tools to make sure that, we're staying safe, and that, we don't end up talking to people who have ill intentions or aren't who they say they are. So really the easiest way to spot this one is these people want to connect really quickly and very deeply, but they won't show their face. You ask to video chat or even talk on the phone, and they make excuses. When it comes to the type of profiles, the ones that target women are generally military men, folks who work on an oil rig, and doctors. A few years ago, there was actually a doctor in the United Kingdom, and he was contacted by a woman. And what happened was the organized crime, I don't know what group it was, but they actually used this man's photo on 20 different fake profiles. And he found out because one of the women reached out to him. So yeah, when they target women, they're really doing that, professional, pulled together man in uniform sort of thing. With men, it's more of like a bikini model, somebody who's, young and good looking. And what generally happens is, like I said, they bring you in, they pull you in emotionally. And then all of a sudden, the guy on the oil rig says, oh no, I'm stuck here. I don't have access to my bank account. Can you wire me $500? And there was actually someone who was at one of my presentations a while ago who fell for a romance scam, and she lost $50,000 to somebody that she thought, and this was an oil rig person. So, seeing those, obviously the tropes will sort of evolve as people catch them. That's kind of one of the biggest issues with scams, is that these are criminals. They're not here to follow by the rules. So they see what the evolutions are, and they bend, their sort of methods to, circle around that. And I'll talk about the do not call list at some point, because that's the most common question I get about scams. Why am I still getting scam calls when I'm on the do not call list? So I will circle back to that. Anyway, number 8 is the investment scam. So investment scams are interesting because they can be either way. They can be a very quick, like, hey, I need, $200 to, I think, you would be really great in investing in my business. Or it can be a long con of, saying that the person is building a business or investing. And yeah, I mean, really the easiest way to spot these is like, do you know this person? Is this like someone randomly reaching out via social media, phone, email? And it's like, with the saying that we talk about a lot with scam prevention is, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So if some random person is showing up and saying, oh my gosh, I can make your $200 into $20,000, probably a scam. And with investment and money scams, I will also be talking about IRS. IRS scams are unfortunately very common as well. With this, I more so mean like stocks, bonds, building a business sort of thing. Yeah, the easiest way to spot this is really, do I know this person? Like, where is this coming from? And especially with something around investment, they're going to be very vague about details. If somebody actually wants you to invest in something, they're going to have a very clear, strategic outline and goals and things like that. So yeah, and with that, we have number 7. So I've talked a lot about talking on like scams on the phone, scams via email, social media. Number 7 is front door fraud. So there are still people who are knocking on doors and trying to, scam folks out of money and information. There's 2 sort of scams in this realm that are the most common. So the first would be somebody coming around and saying, oh, I'm selling magazines. I need to pay for my college tuition, or, some sort of sob story. I hate saying that because there are people who, do need to pay for college tuition or feed their family, things like that. And, you'll give them the information for subscribing to a magazine. Does the magazine ever come? No. The other one would be more of a home repair scam. So someone knocks on the door and they say, oh my gosh, I was walking around the neighborhood and I saw there was something wrong with your roof. I'm a contractor and I'd love to, help fix your roof. So of course you get into that, like, oh my gosh, if something's wrong with my roof, like that affects the whole rest of the house. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be in that state of mind where it's more emotional than it is, the rational thought. Why would someone just knock on your door and tell you there's something wrong with your roof? Unless they're like, was something, like we had the storms recently, like that might make sense. But anyway, so what happens is they say, oh, I'm going to take a closer look. They come back and they say, yeah, that's some pretty bad damage. I can come and fix it. It'll cost $5,000. If you give me $2,500 up front, I'll come tomorrow and fix it. Are they going to come tomorrow? No. So again, this one too is very much of, why would this person be at the door? It's upsetting to me personally when I hear, when I go to senior centers a lot, I have people tell me like, I don't answer my phone, which, I'm at the point I don't answer my phone most of the time either, but they say I don't even want to answer my door. It's like the scamming and everything has just created such a very universal sort of fear of answering the door, which is not great. But I wanted to say that because it's actually fairly universal. And again, there's like a lot of stigma with scams and being a victim of scams. And yet when I talk to people, it's always the same sentiments of, I hate that this happens. And the loved ones always wish that the person who had been scammed had asked them for help. All right, so now we're on number 6. Number 6 is fake online shopping sites. This is gonna be your like most common sort of sites. So, Target, Walmart, Amazon, Instacart, or, wherever you get food. They're gonna have, the logo on top and say like, there's 2 different ways this one can work. It can either be the excitement of, oh, you got a $500 gift card, you won the sweepstakes, which we're gonna talk about sweepstakes later. And the main way to spot this is, did I enter a sweepstakes? Usually the answer is no. The other way is your account was hacked, you need to change your password. And this one's really common with Amazon. I always have people tell me it's emails from Amazon. Like I was talking about before with the text scams, the best way to spot these is, one, if they haven't already been put in your spam folder and email, you want to look at that to and from, see if it's support@amazon.com or, info@walmart.com or something that is legitimate. Or if it's that random string of numbers and letters. With these, the logo, the Walmart logo, the Amazon logo, Whole Foods, whatever, it'll seem a little bit off. So that's a good way to spot it as well. These emails aren't super well formatted, like the graphics aren't totally lined up. There's just something off about it. And again, if it seems like it's off, it probably is, unless, the way it wouldn't be a scam is, let's say you did forget your Amazon password, it happens, and you reset, and then you're expecting that email. So that's really the best way to check is like, hey, did I use this store recently? Like I get my medication from CVS, but I don't use any online tools from CVS. So if CVS emailed me, it would probably be a scam because I don't use that. Or if I was really not entirely sure, I could call, CVS, either my local store or customer service, and check with them. Again, it's more of the like, duh, then better that than to actually be scammed. Okay, now we're on the top 5. Number 5 is charity solicitation. I firmly believe a lot of these scams are very cyclical. So like romance scams are very common towards the beginning of the year because, there's Valentine's Day, like the holidays have just ended, people are lonely. Charity solicitation is towards the end of the year with, Giving Tuesday, Christmas, all of those things where it's really, charities have that opportunity to, expand their reach and have donations, which is great. I'm all about that. What I'm not about is letters in the mail. I would say this one's the most common with letters in the mail, phone calls and email saying, oh, Feed the Children US needs money. Can you donate through, maybe it'll be a link or maybe they'll ask for your credit card information over the phone. The best tip that we give is if you're going to donate to charity, just do it on your own. There's both like causes we care about and also things that are local. And like, for example, I donate to the SPCA, so like I'll go straight to their website. There are also several websites where you can check and see if a charity is legitimate. As far as Pennsylvania goes, if a charity is registered in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, on the Department of State website, there actually is a section where you can see if the charity is legitimate. You can, search in the name and get information. There's also a great website called GuideStar, and GuideStar has all charities on their site. They do a lot of watchdog sort of work to tell you, like, is this charity legitimate, like how their costs break down, what services they provide. So again, if somebody is really pushing you to make a donation, or if you're getting random letters in the mail from charities you've never even heard of, I would really just hang up the phone, not respond to the letter. That's going to be the easiest way to do it. The other thing I want to note here is, again, especially as we're getting towards Giving Tuesday and the holidays, there are those folks that are outside of stores and asking for donations. That's not necessarily a scam, but I would also just be vigilant about how they are protecting your information. Okay. So number 4, and this I mentioned earlier, these are the government or banking impersonation scams. I was talking to a couple folks in the other room and saying about how last spring I got a phone call and they said they were from, I think it was the FBI, and they said that there was a warrant out for my arrest because I was stealing identities, which I was obviously not. And those are really common. So the most common on that front is the IRS, Medicare, and Social Security, which when I say a lot of these scams, I'm not a huge believer that all of these are senior scams. This one definitely is more targeted towards seniors. I would say that for a fact. Maybe not IRS, but Medicare and Social Security, absolutely. The easiest way to spot this, and this is really good information for everyone to have, if you're going to be contacted by the IRS, Medicare, or Social Security, really any federal government organization, or I think state as well, they're going to send you a letter first. So a few years ago, I did some freelance work, so I didn't perfectly submit my taxes, and the IRS, I needed to pay $150, not a big deal. But the IRS sent me a letter. They will send you 3 letters before they even pick up the phone. So if you have somebody on the phone who says they're from Social Security, they're from Medicare, your benefits are going away, which again, they're really trying to create fear so that your, fight or flight response is going to go off instead of, hey, was I contacted by Social Security? Is there any reason this would be happening? So if they're calling and you haven't had any contact from Social Security, that's a scam. And that's, again, if there's definitely tidbits of information I think that are really helpful to take away from this presentation and they're good to share with everyone that is one of them, absolutely. Now we're on the top 3. So number 3 is healthcare scams. I would say this, like I was saying, this presentation's updated every year, but it probably should every 6 months, especially with how kind of COVID has evolved. So this one was really, one of the main ways they did it was through COVID vaccines and COVID testing. With COVID testing, and again, this isn't as common now, they're not going to ask you for, Social Security number. They don't, if you're getting a vaccine, if they're asking for weird personal information, if you're at CVS, like I was saying, I go to CVS, I get my shots there and everything. They will ask me for my insurance card, but they're not going to ask me for, all sorts of wild, payment information and, Social Security and all of the sort of private information. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, this kind of ties into the Medicare as well. Something that happens, and I'm going to talk about the money or information. I know that's something I keep mentioning. When scammers scam, they're looking for either straight up money or they're looking for personal information. With healthcare scams, unfortunately, what they're doing is they're trying to get your medical information So let's say, and this, again, this was more common in 2020 and 2021, really 2021. There were fake vaccination sites that were set up, and they were taking people's like insurance card information, and then people were getting billed for random surgeries and procedures and medications, and it's because they stole people's medical information. So again, really the easiest way to spot something like that is, you know, just stick with your trusted doctor, stick with your providers, and the pharmacy. If you're, I mean, switching pharmacies is fine. Like, that's not, if you're switching doctors or anything, I'm not saying don't do that, but I am saying that, you know, if you need to like check online or have a loved one check online for, you know, if a place is legitimate or if a doctor, you know, is actually a doctor, because those are all like licensed professionals, that information is also on the Pennsylvania Department of State website. So yeah, that's probably the best way to check on that. I could see this becoming more of an issue with flu shots. It's flu shot season. So again, just go to people you trust. I go to the same CVS. You know, my primary care doctor does some of my shots. So just kind of stick with that. Number 2, so the sweepstakes scam. This is the one I was mentioning before about, oh my gosh, you want a free cruise, you know, sometimes they'll pretend to be Publishers Clearinghouse of, oh, you want $1 million, oh my God, you're a millionaire. This is generally gonna be either over the phone, sometimes this is door to door, but really this is mostly a phone or email scam. Again, they are preying on excitement of, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go on a cruise. Oh my gosh, this is so much money. I can pay off, you know, my mortgage and all of that. So the first way to spot this is, did I enter a sweepstakes? Like, I know I personally entered one this week. So like, I'm looking out for like that specific email. Like, I doubt I'll win, but like, I know where it's coming from. So if anything else that I want a sweepstakes, I would say I didn't enter that. The other way to spot this is how they'll take your money in sweepstakes scams is that they will tell you that you have to pay taxes on the cruise. You have to pay taxes before they give you the money from Publishers Clearinghouse. That is not a thing. That's not legal. You do have to pay taxes on stuff like that, but not before you receive it. So, and also I was mentioning this before, and I will mention this again with number 1, because it's really prevalent with number 1. They will ask for a form of payment that is not as traceable. So Visa gift cards are the most common. Amazon gift cards are fairly common too. I believe money orders are as well. Cashier's checks. They don't really, not really cash. It's really that direct payment that is not going to be traced. So that goes into number 1, which is the grandparent scam. Before I go into this one, I want to talk about another one that I've been told about recently. It's not on here, but it's been brought up to me enough times that I'm hoping it's, you know, mentioned in the next iteration of this presentation. So I would say it's sort of like the neighborhood scam. So what I've been hearing, and it started with a good friend of mine, her cat went missing. And she was freaking out, you know, obviously, like, we love our pets. And she had 4 different people message her and say they'd found her cat and that she would have to pay like $250 or, you know, send over all of the vet information and all this stuff so that she could get her cat back. That's her cat. Like, that's, unfortunately, you know, my friend and then some other people that I heard this happen to as well, you know, they were vigilant enough to know that it was a scam. And fortunately, the pet did, you know, get found. But if someone is not telling you, like, not sending a photo of the pet, they want money, that's a scam. Again, they're feeding off of fear. I'm sure with neighborhood Facebook groups, because that's kind of how this one came up, it's through social media. I'm sure there's other iterations of this that aren't just missing pet, but that's the one that I've been told about. So I just wanted to mention that. The grandparent scam, though, this is one that so many people get this phone call of, grandma, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. the first mistake that people make, and again, this is not to shame you, but to say, okay, this is what not to do, is grandma, oh my gosh, and you respond, Jimmy, are you okay? Boom, they know you have a grandson named Jimmy. You don't want to say a name, you don't want to be able to, don't give out any information. The easiest way to spot this, and again, this is sort of a moment of embarrassment is better than all of the ramifications of financial fraud and scams and identity theft, is, hang up and give Jimmy a call and say, hey, just got this phone call, like, are you doing okay? And Jimmy's like, oh, I'm watching the Eagles game. Jimmy's God, my gosh. Jimmy's good, Jimmy's okay. So yeah, this one, they really are feeding off of that. We worry about our loved ones. We want them to be okay. We want to help if somebody's in trouble. So yeah, this one, it's going to be some sort of crazy situation. Maybe like they're in jail and like car troubles or car crashes are the most common. And they'll tell you that they need money to like get to the hospital or they need to get bailed out. Again, yeah, I mean, this one, they're trying to get you, instead of in rational thought mode of, oh, it's Sunday, Jimmy's probably watching the Eagles game. Instead, oh my gosh, Jimmy's in trouble, I need to help him. Which, I think it's great to have compassion and go out of our way to help others. But again, all of these scams, like one of the easiest ways to prevent them is to hang up on that call and check with the actual source. So check with Verizon, check with, CVS, check with Jimmy. Because they're trying to get you off of the logical, oh, this is probably what's happening, into let me react to this and make sure that my medication is okay, that my grandson is okay. Yeah. So at our office, we came up with a what are these called? Scam. So it's SCAM, how you can spot a scam. So S is sudden, comes randomly out of the blue, and this can be for long con or short con. So, the phone calls, the emails, social media messages, it's kind of just out of the blue, it's kind of random. Contact, obviously, so many ways to contact. That's door to door, phone, mail, email. Act now. This one is really, it's prevalent with all of them, but charity scams are the ones that I kind of hone in on when I talk about Act Now. It's, these charities exist, like with fundraising, there's always going to be some sort of sense of urgency, but a charity isn't going to, knock down your door and say, you have to donate right now. If you say I could donate online, like that should be fine. Or the sweepstakes of, oh, you have 2 hours to claim your prize. Or you have an hour before you're locked out of your Amazon account. Finally, M is money or information needed. So like I was saying before, when it comes to scams, you're either, these folks are either looking straight up for money, or they are looking for information. And that can be medical information, that can be banking information, that can be social security number, all sorts of information that they can take advantage of and use for account takeovers, medical fraud, all sorts of fraud and identity theft, really. So SCAM, it's a scam. And, end of the day, like I was saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And pretty much everybody at this point is getting targeted by scams. So I would hope that if folks take anything out of this, it's that these are very common, which is obviously very unfortunate, but, there's no shame in, ending up on a phone call with a scammer or being worried about something that they said on the phone or an email that you got. That's totally human. And, it's totally okay. Like, and frankly, I would say you should, if you're confused about something, ask somebody, have somebody else take a look at it. They're not the one who's on the phone. So they're not, the emotional investment isn't there. They can say, no, that doesn't really make sense. So that's what I have for today. I'm totally, I'm good to take questions if anyone had any questions. And thank you so much.
Yeah, I haven't.
I'm going to move the microphone.
over to here because our microphone guru said this is where it should be. I'll start off with a question. You did say if. What's that? Yeah, okay, is it where you want it to be? Get it up. Oh. Shut up, Bill. I hear you snorting back there. Is that good enough?
Yeah, you want it up near your voice.
All right. You did talk, if we have a loved one who's been scammed, you said you would give us some advice on the best way to talk to them or respond to them because there's a lot of shame involved. Also, I do want to make one interesting comment about the front door scams. I moved into a new house recently, and I'm trying to get legitimate contractors to come out to my house to do work. Do you know how hard that is? Anybody who walks up and just has time on their hands to offer to do a job, that's total crap, let me tell you, because it's hard to get good technicians to do work. But please, can you talk to us a little bit about the best way to help someone who has been scammed, the best way to talk to them?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for bringing that up. That was something I meant to share. So I think with anything else, these scams, like I was saying, it really, the feelings center around shame. So there's guilt, there's embarrassment, there's not wanting, like maybe you feel like you let your family members down by, getting involved in something that ended up being a scam. I'm a huge proponent for trauma-informed communication. So instead of saying to somebody, what's wrong with you, saying what happened. I think, first of all, having relationships with people where they feel safe in saying things, where they're going to say, hey, how did this happen? How did they contact you? Asking sort of questions that build more information about the scenario and can help lead to resources rather than saying, oh my gosh, how could you fall for that? The thing is, people fall for these every day. So our office doesn't necessarily, specialize in that sort of, that part of it. But I think on a human level, it's really, making sure that when you speak with your loved ones, that it's in a way that makes them feel safe and makes them feel heard. And to just remind them that, people end up in bad situations all the time. And it's not their fault. Like, they are the victim of a scam. So I would definitely say that. And I would definitely say to, even have some resources on hand. So our office actually has, you can call our Consumer Protection Bureau. They do a lot of scam work and can connect you with folks. I know Nova also talks to people about getting resources about, reporting scams and sort of dealing with those ramifications. So, because especially with things that are more long-term, like the romance scams, what I hear really often is that the folks around these, the victims are telling them over and over again, this is a catfish, this is not who they say they are, you're gonna get scammed. And then they do, and it's like, you don't wanna go to that person because you feel like maybe they're gonna say, oh, I told you so. Which that's not helpful. Yeah, I would say just really the way you frame things is the best way to approach scam prevention and responses to scams through, compassion and empathy.
We have two questions from the Zoom room. I'm going to ask Susie to unmute herself. And it looks like we might have three. It looks like Marion wants it too, but it's Susie,
yeah, and
Tracy,
I can't work
then
out how to put my hand up.
We'll get to you. Go ahead, Sue.
Okay, if I'm first, I just want to say our mom got scammed about a year ago. Fortunately, she didn't lose any money because we found it out about it in time. But
Susie, can you repeat your question? We had some problem in the room.
my mom got scammed about a year ago, as John knows, and she didn't lose any money. We found it in time, but they had control of her computer for like 16, 20 hours. What is the danger that her information could be sold on the dark web or something like that. How likely is it that they're really going to delve into someone's computer if they have control?
So first of all, thank you for asking that. I think that's a great question. Unfortunately, the likelihood is very high. The thing about, phishing and computer viruses is that once somebody has control of that, if they know how to get control of it, they're also going to know quite well how to navigate having that control. And, that's why part of what we recommend is not having, the same password on all of your accounts, and to change your passwords and update them, because the thing is, like, let's say you have your password saved from your banking, the website you use for your bank accounts, then boom, they get in not only do they have, your passwords for social media or email, but they also can get into things like your bank account, maybe even your medical history and things like that. So, and yes, that information does get sold on the dark web, but that is not my area of expertise. So I just don't necessarily want to go into too much detail on that.
Thank
But
you.
that's where you would want to talk to, some sort of law enforcement, whether it's a local police department or the Attorney General's office.
Tracy, you have the question? You should be able to unmute. There you go.
Yes, hi. I want to ask about, you said you were going to say something about when you have already asked to not receive any phone calls. And I keep getting these phone calls, but the one that really bugs me the most is the State Police Association calling for donations. And I always tell them, do not call me. I will not give anything over the phone. And they keep doing it. So can you elucidate?
Yeah. So thank you for reminding me. As I was wrapping up, I was like, oh, I didn't bring up the do not call list. So I'm going to go into a couple of points here. The first one is, a lot of people don't know this. In fact, I didn't know this until I started working here, is there's both a federal and a state do not call list. So you can get on both. And the problem though, is that the do not call list is only regulated as far as legitimate businesses and advertisers. As far as scammers go, they're not going to pay attention to something like that because they're not here to follow the rules. The thing about scammers is that they might not even be specifically pulling your number. And I will talk about the fundraising calls in a minute. So I'm not ignoring that. About the scam calls though, like the car's extended warranty sort of thing, they might just be pulling an entire list of every single, I'm a 267 number. They might just pull every single 267 number that exists and just boom, 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 call. However, if you have a phone, like a cell phone, or actually I think even a landline, on the caller ID, sometimes we'll say potential spam. That is actually sort of calculated through, if somebody's making a bunch of outbound calls that aren't answered, they can kind of tell that that's a spam or scam situation. The problem there is that once somebody figures out that those calls are being blocked, that they'll just set up a new phone number. Circling back to the fundraising question. So like I was saying, the do not call list and telling people to not call you, that is for legitimate organizations, businesses, advertisers. And if someone keeps calling you, I would contact our office. You can definitely contact us. If you just, of course, I don't have brochures on me right now, but I can swing back around. I live in Hatboro, so I'm very close. I can swing around and drop off some brochures that have those phone numbers and email addresses on them to contact us. But also the FTC is a good one to contact, because if, whether it's fundraising or otherwise, if someone keeps contacting you with this, especially with the same phone number, and saying they're the same organization, I would absolutely report that. I don't know legally what that falls under, but you definitely are able to report that. So then those are the avenues I would recommend.
I just wanted to make a comment. I worked at ExxonMobil for quite a few years, and they started sending out fake emails to test us. And the thing that we discovered that they most often caught us on was that the email address would be wrong. And of course, if you answered that, you always got this nasty note from the people that are saying, don't do that anymore. So they've trained me to look at the email address before I do anything. And especially in any of those scams that you say, oh, I got to do something right away if something bad's going to happen. So I thought that was very good information. So, and that training helped. It'd be nice if we could do that for everybody. I don't know if we can do that. But I think we also have another question from Miriam. You want to ask that question?
Yes, just while we're talking, I looked at my messages and I've got one that says, citizen, to avoid account suspension, please confirm recent transactions. Visit b3oa.me, review statements. Now, obviously that is a scam. And I didn't visit that B3OAME, but I did accidentally just turn to it and I hastily, left it. So that worries me. Should I mean, obviously I'm going to delete this. Should I delete the whole message line, which just popped up, or will that give them a clue that I have answered it and that my phone number is legitimate?
That's a good question. So, I mean, I think the best thing to do with that is to, I don't know who your phone provider is, whether it's Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, but I would contact them and they would probably just, again, because it's not my area of expertise and I don't want to give the wrong information. I would contact them and just see if they have any, way to either report that or to check and make sure that your information wasn't compromised.
Okay, I've had these before. I mean, I don't want to leave it hanging around, so I'll just make a note of the phone number and
Yeah.
then delete it because I don't want to leave it here on my phone.
I'm not going to use the mic.
Okay.
The people in Zoom will not be able to hear you, Mickey. Please use the mic.
So we were scammed badly last year. And one of the things that we were first told is go to the police. So we did. And what we did find out, we were able to, well,